All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is one of our home team episodes. It is MDV, Matt DellaValle, along with Dennis Marshall. We'll just call him the DM man. I just made that
Mr.
up.
DM. Mr. DM. Don't tell Jen that your nickname is Mr. DM.
Actually, all right, not the DM man, but Dennis Marshall. Gabe's in Ecuador doing his thing. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of stories. But today's podcast, we're jumpstarting it with the idea of the single most effective movement to jumpstart your fitness. That's the topic to kick off today's conversation. We have a bunch of other things to talk about. But the reason why this was fresh on my mind, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this topic up, is that as of recently, we've been doing the TH45 challenge, which started on May 1st, ends on June 15th, and it is a challenge through our Train Hard app. And I'm watching all the people in our community just getting fired up. It's been incredible. And I've been doing 45 burpees every day along with my son. And one of the things that I recognized is that I am convinced that if you're out there right now and if you want to get back on the path, the best thing you could do for yourself, like I'm so convinced of this and I'm willing to have a conversation, but is to wake up 15 minutes early and do 45 burpees. Like it's just like the perfect amount. And I think it's the single most effective movement to jumpstart your fitness. And I want to talk about why I think doing 45 burpees can literally change your life. And if you're a guy out there who's not on the path, or if you know someone who needs to get on the path, send them this podcast, because I'm telling you, waking up 15 minutes early, doing 45 burpees changes your life. That's where we're starting it.
Wow. You're like a rocket coming in here today, ready to go. I think I'm the biggest habit and routine driven guy when it comes to movement related stuff out there. I love this kind of stuff. I love doing movement challenges. I love accumulating reps over time. I love having things that I click off on an everyday basis on clickers and stuff like that. And
we need to talk about the clicker, by the way, but keep going. Yeah.
2 types of clickers here.
How many clickers do you have?
I have 2 clickers. I have an Amazon clicker, like the $6 Amazon clicker, which gets the job done. And then I had a company that was very kind enough to send me like this work of art type of clicker.
While you're on it, you put it up in the community chat, and I went and looked it up. I couldn't find that clicker.
Yeah, it's called Nanulectrics. NANU Electrics on Instagram. And they only have 2 products. They have the clicker, and then they have a manual alarm clock. And their whole thing is to step away from your phone and to step away from technology. And, whether or not you're counting days or you're counting reps or whatever, you do it on this thing. And then with the alarm clock, their whole story is that you don't want to have your phone in your bedroom. So you have a manual alarm clock.
Just real quick, MDV, on that Nanulectrics, I'm really curious. My frustration with the clicker, and I was talking to the guys about this morning, is that I dropped it. And so the little thing spun and it went to 1,000. And so I had to go back to 0. And now I'm like at 700. I have to click it 700 times. I'm just like, it was just frustrating. So does a Nanulectric solve that problem?
Well, you don't have to click it actually, you do have to click it 700 times because it's the first reading, right? It's the first. Yeah, you get into the No, it doesn't solve that problem. You still have the same problem with this, but it's just more highly designed. It's got a very mechanical touch and feel. It's heavy. The clicks sound better and they feel better. It's really a gift for somebody in your life who likes analog stuff, it's something unique you can get for somebody that's not, a gift card to wherever. Those kinds of gifts are very meaningful for me. But coming back to the original question with the movement, I think the 45 burpees, I think it's a fantastic way to jumpstart a fitness journey that builds off of other things. The 45 burpees a day is a fantastic way to set yourself up for success, as a daily reminder that you're doing this challenge and that you have these other things that you're going to do. You're going to eat your 50 grams of protein. You're going to get your workout in. You're not going to drink. You're going to do your 45 burpees a day. That combination of things that we've been doing for the past 16 days at this point, maybe a little longer than that, 20 days at this point, is really powerful for people for sure. But I don't think it's the number one thing that I would recommend in terms of jumpstarting your fitness. I do think that within this challenge, it is the number one thing that I would recommend for people to jumpstart their fitness for sure.
Well, then what's the number one thing to jumpstart your fitness?
Get out there and fucking walk, dude. Get out there and walk, dude.
Yeah.
Walking is weightlifting. As soon as I started thinking about walking as weightlifting, like the whole paradigm on fitness and movement changed for me. Like you're moving your body through space every step that you take. You can be extremely intentional walking briskly. You can walk fast. You can walk slowly and really get a lot out of every step. I think if people walked more, you'd see a population across the board. You'd see a population that was probably healthier.
Yeah. What do you think, Dennis? Am I tripping? So I get the walking debate. I'm like on the burpee train right now, but what do you think, Dennis?
I'll give the answer that I always give. It depends.
I feel like you're
my
always
standard
like
response.
Guy.
It's my standard response. Well, because
Switzerland over here.
Well, behavior. You guys ever read? Was it BJ Fogg wrote Tiny Habits? So he has a model of anytime you're trying to change behavior, you need to have relatively high motivation and desire to change and some kind of purpose behind it. You need to have the ability to actually engage in the behavior. So it has to be kind of low-hanging fruit, something the person can actually do. And then some kind of prompt. He calls it B equals map is his model. And the prompt could be something every time you prompt, you have some sort of trigger that is going to initiate you actually engaging in the behavior. And so within that, then I think you have to find an activity that kind of checks off those boxes for somebody. So if they're not motivated to do 45 burpees first thing in the morning, then that's not a great choice for them. If they're not motivated to go out and walk for an hour, then that's not a great choice for them either. So we might have our opinions about what is the best movement, what's the best activity to engage in to get started in fitness. But it's going to vary across the board depending upon that person's preferences and what they can actually do. 45 burpees for some people is you might as well tell them to go climb Mount Everest.
For sure.
Right?
If we're talking about low barrier of entry to fitness, though. How much lower barrier of entry to fitness does it get from a walk?
Not much. I know, personally, I've always, I'm someone that engages in a lot of fitness, obviously, my whole life. And it's not difficult for me to engage in fitness related activities. But walking is always something I've told myself I'm going to do more of. And I just never really do it. I do it on occasion. I'll go for a walk. Fortunately, now the weather's turning here in the Northeast. So we'll go out for walks in the evening with the kids and stuff. But I've told myself numerous occasions, I'm going to go for a walk every single day, no matter what, at least get out for 10 minutes after every meal or 30 minutes total. And it never just really seems to happen for whatever reason, because I don't have that model in place when it comes to that specific activity, So if I'm not a great example because I don't need a ton of prompting to engage in exercise, but if there's a day where I'm just not motivated to train, and I do want to sort of find something to do, generally what I end up doing is either some kind of upper body bodybuilding session. To me, that's relatively low hanging fruit because I enjoy doing it so much. Or a kettlebell workout, just grab a pair of kettlebells and do some kind of circuit because I can just jump right into it and get it going.
Max reps overhead at 70 pounds.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good example.
But walking is also from an evolutionary perspective, dude. What separates human beings from, a lot of the animal kingdom? Not the opposable thumbs and the ability to walk upright. And I think that there's something there about how you move your body through space as a human being walking, and also the repetitive nature of it. The cyclical nature of walking is very much like breathing. Once you get into a pattern, you could probably take this into biking or rowing too, but in particular with walking, you get into a pattern and, the steps to your breath and stuff like that, and almost becomes meditation, which is really cool for me. And it's a good reminder for me to also exercise my fucking dog. Take my dog out and connect with my dog and not have my phone with me. And that's really powerful for me. So I'm a big fan of walking. I'm a walking fan. If we were going to add anything to the Train Hard 45 challenge, one of the things that I would lobby hard to add would be a 30 or 45 minute walk.
Yeah, I think this is a good debate by our conversation because, for example, Dennis, you've grown up, and myself included, and MDV too. We've came up I've worked in the fitness space for over 20 years,
long time,
and so we don't have desk jobs, right? And so I'm either in a gym or at home that has access to a gym. And so for me, walking, like if I had a traditional job where I was on calls more often, right? A lot of the stuff that I do is behind the computer, podcasting, or actually filming. But I think that if I took more calls of clients and things like that, I would be out on walks taking those calls. I think that's a really great way to get in movement. Or if I had more meetings that I did, like instead of doing meetings, like instead of meeting with clients, I would be like, hey, you want to go out on a walk type of thing. I think that's a good way to get in some movement. For me, similar to you, Dennis, it's hard to allocate time towards walking. Like a lot of times I'll walk downtown with the family on the weekends, but that's about it. And I think MDV, like where you live, it's really easy access to walking.
Very easy
right by
to
the
walk.
beach. Like
Very easy.
I think those factors come into play, right? Like what does your schedule look like? What does your location look like? Which those factors don't play into the burpees. But to your point, Dennis, right?
Well, Jay, I gotta disagree with you here, bro. Completely, dude. Completely.
No, not the schedule piece. I mean the access to like easy. I guess the point.
What are you talking about, dude?
Never mind.
You live in a beautiful neighborhood.
No,
get out of your house and put your shoes on, or don't put your shoes on. Just go for a walk, bro. That's what I'm talking about. It's the easy. There's no barrier to entry nearly anywhere in the continental United States that you can't walk out your door and go for a walk,
especially in California.
Especially in California.
Yeah.
Especially in California.
I think that I just don't do it as much. I used to ruck a lot. Now I don't ruck as often. I ruck probably once a week. Especially with a group of people, I typically will ruck, but I don't do as many walks as I used to just like on the phone. That's something maybe I'll get back into, but I still think, yes, okay, walking. Okay, so the single most effective movement to jumpstart your fitness. I see your debate for walking.
I understand. I think we're both in the same camp here, dude. I think the core of what we're talking about right now is the absolute power of what these 45 burpees have done for the men who are doing this challenge. And we're only 16, 17 days into this thing.
Dude, that guy.
We've seen people drop times from 10 minutes to 4 minutes in 2 weeks.
Dude, I'm watching guys put up times like, hey, the first time I did 45 burpees, it took me 10 minutes plus.
10 minutes.
Now it took me 8 and then 7. And I'm like, wow, like that is so cool because walking is a foundational skill you have to be able to have, which then translates into things like jogging and running and skipping. And that's great. Burpees, taking your body. So I got a message and I'm curious what you guys think because I went live this morning doing my burpees. We were just kind of messing around doing different styles of burpees, like whatever, right? Justin was like, hey, I'm doing an MDV style burpee. That's one of the ones that I've been messing with lately, actually, like a single leg position and then dropping down in like a strict push-up. My question for you guys.
You're doing a push-up and then standing up.
Well, strict burpee is like you step back into a plank, you lower down to the ground, your chest and thighs touch, then you come back to the standing position.
Right.
Yeah.
The way I'm doing the same work as a burpee.
Yeah, maybe.
Last night I wanted to get in some extra burpees. And
you're doing push-ups. You're doing a push-up.
Well, so I'm at a baseball field.
So it's 45 push-ups. Sorry.
No, it's not. We're the fucking king of CrossFit over here, dude. It's the same work, right? I'm accomplishing the same work. I'm getting to the ground. I'm standing back up. It's just a different method.
But are you jumping?
A ton of bricks or a ton of feathers.
Are you jumping and clapping with your hands with bent arms or what?
No, there's no jumping clap.
No, So of the three of us, I'm the only one actually doing burpees.
You're the only one who's actually doing a CrossFit.
So Jason
burpee,
does up downs. MDV does push-ups, and I do 45 burpees.
All
right. So that brings up a good question. I got a message on Instagram. The guy's like, hey, you have to jump to do a burpee. And I'm just like, it's so funny because if you had asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said, well, here's the standard. Now I'm just like, bro, do you take your chest to the ground, stand back up again? I don't give a shit how you do it. If you jump, if you don't jump. And it begs the question, if you're doing 45 burpees for 45 days, we didn't even talk about a standard. We didn't even bring it up. But do you have to jump and clap like Dennis does behind his head?
I talked about the standard in the onboarding videos for the challenge. You get down to the ground, you stand back up. You don't have to jump and clap.
What do you mean like Dennis does? Like I'm doing some kind of wacky technique. That's what a burpee is. Get out of here. Jump and clap.
I mean, you are doing the traditional burpee. You're doing the traditional CrossFit burpee for sure.
But I like the way but MDV, I was at a baseball game last night and I wanted to get in a few extra burpees because I felt I don't know, I just felt inspired or whatever. And I was doing this technique almost like where you go on a single leg and you kind of like touch the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like almost like I don't know what you would call that.
That's like a single kettlebell deadlift without a kettlebell.
Exactly. Like a single, right? And then I would touch the floor, which by the way, my flexibility sucks. So I would touch the floor, then step deadlift. Back, do a push-up, and then try and step back on that same leg and then stand back up again. So using like almost like a single leg position. And it was nice because I felt like it was opening up my hamstrings different than
sure.
you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did them last night.
Yeah, I've been doing them. I mean, the reason I'm not doing them dynamically right now, Dennis,
I know,
is because of my Achilles.
I understand that.
But I've been doing them
for his Achilles.
Yeah, I've been doing them where I step into like an alternating Spider-Man, like a groin or a Spider-Man stretch at the top, and then stand on up. Doing 45 reps of a burpee at any speed gets difficult. Even if you did them strict nonstop, try to doing 45, moving your body to the ground, and standing back up with a push-up in the middle, it will get challenging for sure.
I think it would be an interesting test if we did my version. So the actual burpee, let's just call my version a burpee. If we did a strict burpee and we did the up down with no jump at the top and measured purely heart rate, 45 reps. Or whatever, maybe max reps, even just max reps in 2 minutes, like just continuous movement 2 minutes. I'd be interested to see what like the biomarkers look like when you do that.
Oh, Dennis, you're going to get into a discussion about heart rate as a correlative to fitness, as a causation.
It's an indication of something, yeah.
The reason why I don't like jumping,
scared by a spider debate. Remember that.
The reason why I don't like jumping at the top of the burpee, and I'm totally jaded here, ever since MDV tore his Achilles, it has psychologically messed me up playing pickleball with family.
Playing pickleball.
When I'm doing box jumps, when I'm doing anything, it gets in my head. And I do a lot of dynamic, crazy stuff on the mats. And so for me, I try and remove any I just don't like the idea of doing a burpee, jumping up in the air and landing again. And I like the idea of standing up in almost like a sprawl position that translates into jiu-jitsu. So that's why I do them like that.
Guys, I hear lots of excuses here.
If you never do them dynamically, what happens when you step wrong one day and your body's not used to that anymore? So let's cover the Achilles really quickly because Jason Tatum, probably the top 5 NBA player in the league, was having a Hall of Fame performance the other night versus the New York Knicks in the NBA playoffs, and in the fourth quarter, he ruptured his Achilles out of nowhere.
He was having literally a Hall of Fame out of nowhere. Performance in one game or across the season? Because
he's had a tremendous season, but he was having a very memorable game and completely dominating offensively in that game. And with about 3 minutes left in the game, he ruptured his Achilles, and he was devastated. He knew right away. You could tell he knew right away. He could put no weight on it, and his season's over next season as well, for sure.
Yeah, that's a rough sport to rupture an Achilles.
Out of nowhere.
You're an encyclopedia for sports, and Dennis is an encyclopedia for all things different fitness. Like you guys, you're really deep in like the sports world, or it seems that way, right?
I love sports, man. I don't.
Are the Warriors still in? Or are they out?
The Warriors are out. They lost Stephen Curry in the middle of the playoff run, and then didn't have enough offensive power to continue. But I don't even have an NBA team that I love. I just love watching the athletic potential of these guys who are the best at what they do go out there, especially at the time of the playoffs. Yeah, because they really play in the NBA and the playoffs. They play both sides of the court very, very hard. The defense comes up a lot in the playoffs. In this regular season, it's a very offense-dominated game. The defense doesn't play as hard in the regular season.
It just shows you that, like, with freak injuries like that, I mean, these guys are at the tip of the spear in their sport, right? In the athletic world, they have the best care, the best trainers,
everything,
the best physical. I mean, they're getting the best of everything, and then certainly, yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes down to perhaps like how committed they are to caring for their bodies in season, off season. But at the end of the day, like, you could make the assumption that professional athletes are getting the best possible care in the world, and they'll still endure something like that comes out of nowhere. And it's like, how does that possibly even happen? It's just some injuries you just can't account for. They're just freak things.
I don't know if he had a previous ankle injury or not, or a calf strain or not. I'd have to look into that. But like you said, you're talking about a guy. It's not like he's a bench player who doesn't have access to what the top 5 guys have or whatever. He's on the best team with the best resources, the best player. So he's got all the attention, all the prep, everything. He probably had people working on his body at halftime before going back out for the second half, and it still happened.
Right.
You think those guys? It's illegal to take peptides in the league, right? You think?
I don't know what the rules on peptides are. Like the Wild West right now, dude.
But that's what I'm
wondering.
wondering.
Peptides off the internet.
I'm wondering if it would
into
actually
yourself.
make sense for professional sports to allow peptides, specific ones to help with recovery and whatever, to help avoid some of these things. Like, anyways, I don't know what the rules are. I'm sure that there's some. I'm sure it's regulated.
Well, did you see that the Baseball Hall of Fame, or whoever the Baseball Association is, started to let some of these players from like Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose are now eligible for the Hall of Fame, which to me is an indicator that not too far behind are going to be the steroid era guys, that those guys are definitely going to get into the Hall of Fame while they're alive, I think. Which is a fucking tragedy that Pete Rose died not having recognition of getting into the Hall of Fame. I know. Dude, it's not a sports podcast, but
what did he do? He bet on, what was the Pete Rose thing?
I'd have to go back and like really look at it, but he was involved in some sports betting that was happening in the league. I don't think he ever admitted to betting against his team or betting on his team, but I think he was sports betting other baseball games while in the league.
Right.
Yeah. It's, you know what? One of the things I've liked, so I don't watch really any sports, and Ashley's interested in them when they're on. She likes them probably more than I do, but I love, with now that Caden plays so much baseball, I do enjoy watching a little bit of baseball if it's on. Yeah. I just think the athleticism in baseball is so remarkable. It is mind-blowing to me. So I do like watching baseball. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I thought it was the boringest thing ever. Now I actually like it when he turns it on. So just goes to show, just things change,
Sure. You have a couple of people right now having really historic seasons. Aaron Judge is playing out of his mind.
I think he's at a 400 batting average or something.
Like 15 or 16 home runs.
Bro. It just boggles my, like, even watching, so Caden, he's in like a 12 and under league. So it's right now, like, they're playing real baseball at this age. Yeah. And it's just watching some of the plays that some of these boys make it's just so cool. And the playoffs are happening right now. And so we actually have a playoff game tomorrow to go to the championship. And so, the block's getting hot, and that's what's the block's in hot in baseball right now. Dude, it's so funny. So I was at a game. I was just helping open the snack shack the other night, and I happened to be talking to a friend of mine, and these parents were right there, and we were just talking about the umpire, and I was like, "Oh yeah, umpire's been pretty good to see," and they're like, "Yeah, we're just here to make sure." They were the umps' parents there just to make sure that no other parents were like yelling at them. And I thought it was so interesting, because I actually think that this season in particular, it's been super low key. No one says anything to the umps. Like, it's been very, very cordial, very professional. But it's sad that the parents had to be there for something like that. That was disappointing,
How old are the umps? How old are they?
The ump in particular that I'm talking about, he was in, what is he? So he was either in 13 or 14. So it was 12U, so there has to be a little bit above. But because it's playoffs, it was just a year above.
How fucking sad, dude. I mean,
that's sad, right?
That's so sad to me, man. Like, talk about not having, I know that the parents care, and it's an impossible position to put myself in because I don't have a kid who's out there playing. So I can't actually know what that feels like, but I've been the kid out there when other people's parents go nuts on the umpire. I've been right there when I've seen a parent go nuts on an umpire. And what a lack of emotional control, man. Like, and how embarrassing it is for the kid. I'm embarrassed for the kid who's embarrassed that his dad is doing this. Like, it's so, dude, there's horror stories about parents out there on fields and stuff now. It's scary.
Yeah, you got to be able to control yourself in that
for
situation.
Sure.
Dude, I'm telling you. But the way that we did it in this league, so our league is pretty professional, and they just came right out, and they're like, like basically they held everybody accountable for everybody else. Like the coach is accountable for the players are accountable for their parents, the parents are accountable for any guest that they bring, and they just set the tone from the very beginning. We are having a zero tolerance, not a 1 tolerance, not a half tolerance, 0 tolerance. And they were like very much so like everybody is responsible for the next layer. And it's been pretty remarkable, man. It's been super low key because normally you hear some chirping. There's been no chirping. It's been great.
It's really good.
But yeah, I felt bad the parents had to be there. It shouldn't be that way, but some people do get crazy. But this season's been really, really remarkably positive, so that's good.
Imagine how nervous the kid is too. If you're talking about like a 14 or 15-year-old kid who's out there umping a game and like trying their best. Like it's another thing. It's a whole nother story if the kid's out there fucking around and not trying his best. I'd be like, yo, come on, pay attention and like do a good job. But if they're out there trying their best and they make a call that you don't like or something and you go nuts on that kid, like
I saw it
crazy.
So last season was a little bit bad. So I saw a parent get kicked out last season. That was at All Stars. That was not good. That was not cool. And then I watched this one time. It was a really bad situation. The field ump like debated his call. So they didn't know if it was an out. And so he kind of like was like iffy. And as soon as he was iffy, both the coaches tried to take advantage of that, right? Like, you know what I mean? And it just got ugly because the kid wouldn't just make the decision. And learning lesson there was like the kid just had to be more steadfast in his decision, but the coaches also shouldn't have engaged. And it just got bad. And I think they actually sent out a message afterward to the league just saying like, hey, this is unacceptable, et cetera. And it's been totally rectified this year, which is great.
That's cool.
Umping baseball is hard.
For sure.
It's hard because like the game moves so slow. There's so many little opportunities to just start daydreaming, just not concentrating, not focusing. And you have to have this like situational awareness and anticipate if you're like in the field, or obviously if you're behind the plate, you're a little more engaged the whole time, calling balls and strikes. But when you're like out in the field, umping, there are so many little situations that you're not going to even like consider that come up. You got to be like, put yourself in the right position. If this goes there, if this happens over there. And if you're not like one step ahead of that in anticipation, you can just totally blow something. Like I mean, I used to ump when I was a kid, and I'll never forget this. This is like imprinted in my memory. I was umping a game, and there was a guy on first base. I was in the field. I was like, and you would set yourself up like behind the pitcher, you know? And I might have even called balls and strikes at that point. I forget. Because I used to do that with the umps. You would stand behind the pitcher and call balls and strikes for the younger ages.
Yeah. Typically for Little League, they have either just one ump who's either behind the plate or behind the mound, or two umps and one's behind the plate and one's behind the mound. They don't have typically line umps.
No, I was behind the mound. I don't know if I was calling balls and strikes or not, and the ball got hit back to the pitcher. They were going to turn a double play, and I ended up right between the pitcher and second base. So the pitcher went to turn around and throw the ball to second base, and I was standing right in front of him, and he couldn't throw it. And like I think both guys ended up being safe because the pitcher got like frazzled and didn't know what to do. And the coach was screaming at me, and I felt, I mean, like I wanted to just crawl under a rock, you know, like all the parents are outraged, but like, what do you do? Like it was just a matter of like moving myself 2 feet to the left or 2 feet to the right. And it just happened that I ended up right in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But it's just because I wasn't even thinking that was like a possibility, you know? There's so many little opportunities like that.
Yeah, but here you are. It's been what, 30 years or whatever it's been, or 20 years, and you still remember it, right? And it's like that's an example of how some of these opportunities could be. You know, you got to have kind of detachment and perspective when you're looking at these things, because dude, you don't want to have a kid have that terrible experience and never get back into it, right? Or even worse, if you have a shitty coach and the kid doesn't want to go back and play, that's even worse. So
I never umped again. I never umped again after that.
You never umped again after that?
No, I remember. Dude, I was doing a towel.
Last night I was at or yesterday morning I went to a wrestling class with Daniel Cormier, and this is relatable, right? Because it goes to show, like, for everybody listening out there, especially if you're trying to impart on the youth, you have to be really, really mindful of your words. They have, you know, your words and actions, they have power behind them in a very positive way, but also in a negative way. Like what Dennis is saying, like, dude, you never umped again. Like, that's crazy. So yesterday I go out to Gilroy, and it is remarkable. It is so remarkable to me what access the youth have to training if you prioritize it. Like these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, most of them were all redshirting, which I didn't even know. That's like a very common thing, I guess, at least for that group, where they're going in as freshmen to high school at 16 so that they could be more competitive, right? But these boys are just out there and all they know is just grit, hard work. And it was just such a testament to like whatever you coach them, like their perception becomes reality. Like whatever you show is like, this is the way, you know what I mean? Like it just gets imprinted in them. They didn't understand what a half-ass effort was. It was beautiful, man. I would love to share more on that. It's great.
One of the interesting things about youth sports, and I can even remember the dynamic of the other teams and my teams growing up really well. The teams almost always take on the character of the coach.
Yep.
The team gets a reputation for being the type of team that the coach wants that team to be, essentially. Whatever the coach is showing that team, whether it's they're going to be a hard-nosed team, whether they're going to be laid back, whether they're going to play like their fucking lives are on the line, whether they're going to, I remember, dude, there were teams that like in the leagues, they had these different characteristics, for lack of a better term. And it almost always depended on who the head coach was. And I always happened to play on the teams that were like the slightly competitive teams, but we also had fun. And then there were the teams above us that were like, we just fucking try to win every single game no matter what. And then the teams below us that were this is super laid back type of stuff. But those were the characteristics of the teams for sure.
Yeah. I mean, from my experience with the wrestling from yesterday, and I'm going to do more work with them, I just found it to be remarkable. And it begs this question, like, how do you get great? You get great because you're at 6 a.m. weight training, in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and you're just instilling these skills, and that's why they've created so many champions, is because these boys, and then what happens is you got like 12 or 14 boys, and now it's this peer pressure to actually be great. It's not peer pressure to go out and go do crazy stuff. It's peer pressure to level up and be great. And it becomes this camaraderie. That's what I noticed yesterday. And it's something that I want to continue to inspire in my children, because I wanted whatever they were doing, I just wanted to bundle it up and take it to as many schools as we can, It was beautiful.
Yeah. Wrestling is not unique, different. But I mean, it's so self-selecting too. And like, it just filters out anyone that's not going to get on board with that attitude and mentality. Right. Like if you're not on board with it, like you're just not going to last. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can get away with some bullshit in some other sports, maybe that are less aggressive and don't require as much discipline and hard work. But in wrestling, it just won't fly. You can't half-ass your way through even high school wrestling. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Keep going, Jay.
I was just gonna say a big takeaway for me was that they weren't being intentional with their reps on the weight training. And that's something I'm going to go and help them with, because it almost was like, it was really eye-opening for me, because it almost was like they were treating a bodybuilding strength session like a CrossFit workout, where they were trying to get max reps instead of being intentional in the strength development. And it was really eye-opening, like I said, because if you had asked me 10 years ago, I maybe would have had a different position on this. But watching them do, for example, a bent over row, or instead of like taking time, setting position, really engaging the lat, trying to build the strength, they were just looking to get through the reps instead of getting adaptation from the reps. And so that's what I'm going to start, transferring them from with the strength conditioning, is that when you go to a wrestling practice, like they're being intentional, right? They want to develop skills. They're not just like messing around. And when it came to the weights, I feel like they didn't connect that yet. And so that's going to be one of my goals with them, is connecting like the purpose behind the movement to drive adaptation to get stronger.
Yeah, that's cool. I kind of think that this is the one area in that CrossFit really let people down. And maybe it's not even a function of CrossFit letting people down. Maybe it's a function of coaches letting people down within that type of training system. That intensity almost always takes precedence over intention in the manifestation of CrossFit programming for a lot of people. I'm not saying for everybody, but if you told somebody to do 30 power cleans at 135, and the goal was to get the work done, in the CrossFitter who walks up to that barbell is going to try to grip it and rip it for 30 reps, as many as they can get, as fast as they can get, generally. But there's a lot to be said by doing like 30 really intentional power cleans at a quick pace, not a reckless pace. I think you get a lot out of the movement in terms of the adaptation, the stimulus, the time under tension, that like I think you miss some of it if the wheels come off and you're just trying to do the reps as fast as humanly possible without paying attention to the movement, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Dennis. Were you going to say something on that? Because
I mean, the clock is a blessing and a curse.
Oh,
that's that's the best way to describe it, Dennis.
For sure.
Yeah.
The clock has been such an amazing factor to lead to, I think, some high intensity, great training with huge adaptation and benefits. But at the same time, it's encouraged people move in a way that, and myself included, that, lost some of the intention behind the movement, right? And that was my main takeaway with the boys. I mean, this one young man, he was doing a bent over row, single arm, right? Like a dumbbell bent over row. And I asked him, I said, what is your, or maybe he was doing he was doing a curl or something. I said, what is the intention? Like, what are you trying to get out of this particular movement right now? He's like, I'm trying to build my bicep. So it was a curl. And I go, okay. I said, cool. I was like, well, then, you want to remove this, because he was like really like almost like hang power cleaning it with his right arm. I'm like, well, dude, right now you're incorporating your hip in a way where you're just trying to get the work done. But if your goal and intention is to develop your bicep, let's hone in on it. Let's use less weight. Let's lock in. Let's develop it. And I don't think I would have had that clarity 10, 15 years ago. I would have just been like, hey, fuck it. Like, let's just go for max reps, Yeah. And so that's what I'm looking to bring to these guys, because they're getting so much stamina building and cardiovascular endurance on the mats that I think that they need that more isolated, focused approach in their strength training.
Gabe's really gotten to you, huh?
He has in this particular case, only because I watched the way these kids train.
Of course.
And dude, they're getting so much stamina training. They're getting so much cardio. I mean, dude, they need just to build strength.
Yeah, they need to build strength and lift weights. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even if you were going to do a functional training workout, like the way that I train and I think the way that you train now, Jay, is different than how we were training when the intention was to like max repetition, max volume, max loading, fastest time in the world that you could do this next session. Almost all of my workouts these days are like 5 sets, 3 or 4 movements at a more intentional and consistent pace than trying to get 5 rounds of the fastest humanly possible repetitions that I could get in. Even that I did an EMOM 20 of a strict Cindy the other day with a vest on. And the goal was not to just jam through the rounds as fast as humanly possible in each minute. It was to really feel the movement in each minute. And it got tough. It progressively got tougher and tougher for sure. But I just think that aspect of my training is, I don't want to say it's gone forever, because I do want to express and find intensity in certain things. But like with weighted movements, it's probably not going to be for me going forward.
Well, I think if you job with TH Daily, Dennis, right? I like today's workout was a 15-minute strength focused full body where I did hang cleans, front squats with dumbbells, and then strict toes to bar. And it's funny because I'm in the garage with 5 other guys this morning, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, I want to do the TH Daily." And they're like, "Oh, what is it?" And I said it, and 3 of them looked at me like, bro, I don't really feel like doing strict toes to bar. Like, come on. Like those are in the same categories, overhead squats and handstand push-ups. I'm like, whoa. I was like, first
of all, they're not even close to that same category.
I was like, let's just do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, we get into this rotation. Back to your point, MDV, it wasn't like, it was an AMRAP, but it wasn't like for speed. It was for quality. Right. And dude, you get a lot of reps in, and we're like halfway through, and I was like, hey bro, how them strict toes to bar treating you? And it's like, dude, this is nice. And I'm like, yeah. So it's a good example of like the program we're doing in TH Daily is badass. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Well, I think it's like every movement has a specific purpose, right? It has a movement pattern it's looking to develop. It has muscle groups it's looking to train and develop and strengthen. There are coordination patterns that they're all looking to develop, right? And that's like the exercises that you choose, and you would select them based around those things. What one of the probably downsides of what CrossFit did is it kind of lumped all the movements into just one category of like, just get the shit done as fast as possible. This is going to create power output.
Yeah.
And then you lose sight of what the actual intention behind the movement is.
For sure.
Yeah. And some of them lend themselves to just get it done as fast as possible. And that might be the intention, like rowing or some of the cardiovascular movements, for example. Like, largely the benefit, like something highly cyclical that you can repeat over and over again. Jumping rope, stuff like that. And they all have ancillary benefits and reasons behind performing them, but some of them just lend themselves to like, just get this done as fast as you can. They're low in technique, low in skill, but so many of the movements don't fall into that category of like, just get this done as fast as possible for the sake of getting it done, because it just takes away from so much of the benefit you could get from doing it slower, more intentional, with better technique, really understanding where you're supposed to be feeling it, how you're supposed to be performing it. So it's making that, I think that, one thing we try to do with the program is like make that distinction very clear, where if we're asking people to operate at like a high level of output and move fast, you try to just choose very simple movements that allow for that are low in technique, low in skill. But the days where you want to build strength and improve coordination, if you were trying to do that, and power output in a short domain, you would choose movements that lend themselves to that. It's making that distinction, which I don't think CrossFit ever really did a good job of.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry,
that's
Jay,
that's a great way to summarize it, Dennis. And I think that we'll see what the future holds for the entire CrossFit industry. I mean, there's a lot up in the air right now. I'm actually I'm about to talk to Dawn, who's the CEO of CrossFit, and I'm just curious what they have going on. I'll report back on the next podcast. But I do want to get into a very important topic here on the show. So, Dennis,
nutrition?
Well, no, not nutrition. So,
quality versus quantity.
So we need to get into a very important conversation: quantity versus quality when it comes to nutrition. If you guys didn't listen to the last episode, Gabe and MDV, mainly Gabe, went for like half an hour about nutrition. And even Liz, who produces the podcast, and she's incredible, she like wrote like what did she put? Like music was coming on from the like
playing them off. Yeah, play them off.
Cut them off.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about something very. I'm just generally curious. So Dennis had like this cleansing process, and now MDV jumped on the bandwagon. So
I jumped on the train.
Tell me about this train of cleanse.
Jumped on the hose, really.
I jumped on the hose.
Wait, you did the same thing that he did?
I did. I had the full experience.
Oh my God.
The full experience, dude. Full experience. So I found this place that's local here in by me in Oceanside. And I had first of all, I had a great experience doing this. It's something that I think, so we're talking about colonics. We're talking about enemas here, just so everybody's aware.
High-powered enema.
High-powered enema. I don't know if it's high power, but we'll get into that in a second.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because part of this show is to, obviously, we want to level up guys. We want to be able to share insight. But also, like, if something is, you guys did it and it was a good experience for you guys, I want to be able to share it on the show. Yeah, it might be kind of weird and taboo, but if it's something that might help somebody, we should share it.
So I had never done one of these. I've been in the health and fitness space for a long time. I've seen people talk about the values of colonics before. And we discussed this on another episode where we went back and we're like, this is probably thousands of years old in regard to people optimizing their health and well-being. I'm not saying go do it. I'm not saying don't go do it. I'm saying go out there, do your own research. And if you want to experience it, go and try it, but don't like just have somebody shove a garden hose up your ass and do it. Like actually go to a legit spot. So I went to a spot and they did three things. So it was started off with a lymphatic type of red light therapy massage-ish thing. So that was like 30 minutes.
What's that? You just like lay in a
so it was a massage table.
Yeah.
And they took a red light therapy gun that had like some sort of ball on the end of it and hit all the major lymphatic areas on the body, like from the head down to the feet. Took this gun that had some sort of like red light trigger on it that I don't know what it did, but I was on the massage table and she was pushing the gun along like my temples and underneath my eyes and my neck and then across my chest, all the major areas in which you have lymph nodes, essentially.
Genitals?
It felt good.
Genitals?
No, got close. Got close in there. Got close because there's lymph drainage down there too.
Right,
but
I know.
no, we didn't. There was no gun contact to the genitals.
Shucks.
Holding a gun to your genitals sounds like a interesting thing. The second phase was the colonic or the enema, and then the third phase was an infrared sauna, like 40 minutes in the infrared sauna. So it was these 3 stages. The enema was interesting, dude. So I had an experience much like Dennis. It was a room in which there was like a plastic kind of like table that had plastic stirrups and then a hole in the center.
Yeah. And
then a hose with a nozzle that you essentially have to self-insert into your rectum.
Giddy up.
Yeah. They give you some lube to insert it. That was a fun experience for sure. But
how did you feel after like this experience?
So, I mean, all right, all cards on the table here, but I've had to have like a, what are those things called? Medicine that you take through your.
Oh yeah.
I've had to do that for, I had a hemorrhoid at one point.
Repository?
Suppository.
Suppository.
Suppository. All right. We're fucking getting this all out here. So I've had to do that before, but this is a little bit different. It's like a 2-inch kind of nozzle on a hose, and it's not comfortable to put up there. Like your body is naturally guarding against you putting anything up there. So the woman was in the room and she's talking to me and was like, I'm not going to be able to put this in.
She was there present for it?
Well, she's like leading you through this and telling you how to do it. So people need guidance. I asked her, what percentage of your clientele is male versus female? And it's like 90% female that does this, she said. It's like mostly female. Anyway, so she leaves the room. I get the thing going. I put it in and she comes back in. And the water's flowing at this point. So Dennis was talking about this experience in which like you're getting full. Like it feels like you're getting full. Like you have to take the worst bowel movement of your life, essentially. But the first time that you go to push everything out, it's not a natural human feeling to just push everything out when you're not in an area that you know is a toilet. Like, so she's talking to me. I have the gown on and this thing's in this thing's in me. And I'm like, I can't push anything out while you're in here. So it's 45-minute process.
You actually had to push?
The first. Sorry, I don't have a loose. I don't know how loose your situation. Well,
I just released.
Yeah, but MDV, just to kind of like,
I get push release, same thing.
I just stopped holding.
But did you feel like when you were complete with this 45-minute session, do you feel like you would like do this on an annual basis? Was it something that
I would go back and do it again? So the first few times the water was in you and then you released it, you definitely see stuff because there's a tube running next to you, so you could see what has come out of you.
Yes, I didn't have that. I wanted that.
I think MDV went to a more high quality location.
Yeah, right, so I went to a shithole.
The first few pushes or the first few releases, you can see the discoloration, and then it looks like clear water for a while. The wild part was like 20 minutes in. It like I felt something different, like it went like further up or whatever. And the stuff that came out like 20 minutes in was discolored again. So there was stuff in there from, I don't know when, like it cleaned out stuff after 20 minutes of water shooting into me that who knows what it was.
Paleo brownies from 2000, from 2012.
2014 paleo brownies.
And then you went
some Quest bars.
And then you go sit in this sauna. I mean, I bet you that's like a 3-hour ordeal. And you probably feel like
2.5 hours. I felt great after.
You feel like $1 million.
I also did a 36-hour fast at that time.
A 36-hour fast? Wait, just water?
Just water. 36 hours. I had just water. I didn't want to go in there eating a tremendous amount. So like I decided that I was going to fast. And then I fasted the full next day after too.
Wow. What's the longest fast you've done?
That was it. 36 hours was the longest I had gone without food.
Dennis, have you done any fasting?
I've done a 24-hour a couple times. That's the longest I've gone.
I did it without blinking. Like I felt fine. Like I don't. So one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, man, is like, do you think as human beings, do we eat too much all the time?
Yes.
Like how much access to food do you think so what did modern agriculture come around? Like maybe 10,000, maybe around that time, 10,000 years ago, probably less. And as humans, we've been hunting and gathering for hundreds of thousands. I don't know. I don't know these time frames, but modern agriculture is very, very short on the human timeline. So we never had access to food like we have right now. So is it really natural to eat all the time? I don't know, but it was cool to fast and like intentionally not eat. And I felt fine. There was no downside effect. I didn't feel dizzy. I didn't want food. I felt, if anything, more clear for sure.
You guys, have you ever read Comfort Crisis? Michael Easter?
No, I've heard of it though.
Yeah, I know. I think, Jay, I think you and Gabe have talked about it a couple times maybe. But one of the points that really resonated with me in that book is he talks about like, it's okay to be hungry. Like everyone, like you should on a very regular basis experience like pretty severe hunger. You know, like that's a normal part of the human experience. We're like, as soon as we get a little bit hungry, we have to eat something. Right? And I experience this on a regular basis. Like I always have to remind myself, like yesterday, I ate lunch. I trained at like 4 to 5, had to go to the grocery store, and I'm on my way to the grocery store. I'm pretty hungry. And I'm like, all right, I got to like get something at the grocery store to eat on my way home because I'm so hungry. And then I'm like, no, I don't. Like, so I'm going to be hungry for another like half hour until I get home and cook myself dinner, and I'll be fine. And like, but the normal reaction, the normal response to feeling that hunger is like, I got to eat something right now, right? Like, and it's so unnatural, I think, to not experience like periods of not like starvation hunger, but like you're hungry and it's okay. You'll be fine.
I definitely want to do more. So I'm uninformed on this topic in terms of where these numbers came from. That's what I really want. I want to get an understanding of where did this 2,000 calorie per day number come from? Where did the number of meals per day come from? And just understand it a little bit more. I'm not saying that everybody has to go out there and experiment with fasting or whatever, but like if you're talking about again, if we're going to get into a discussion here, if you're talking about quantity controls on your nutrition, the way that quantity controls on nutrition more than likely happened for the most of human development was the fact that they didn't have food to eat. It wasn't the fact that they were eating less food. Maybe during certain seasons, they were eating less food because of storage and availability. But mostly it was because there was just not food around for them to eat and they had to go and find it and get it. And that was the quality. That was the quantity control.
Did you ever read the Warrior Diet?
Which one's that?
So he I forget the guy's name. He wrote this quite a few years ago, and I might be not quite doing justice to the exact philosophy, but the idea is like, you know, hunter gatherers for however many thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions, we would hunt and gather throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, I thought it was Ori, and then we would eat. We would sit and eat what we hunted and gathered that day, and we ate one meal a day. Maybe throughout the day we nibbled on some little things, whatever we could find. But for the most part, it was just one big meal, one big feast at the end of the day. And then that was it. We woke up the next day and did the same thing. Hunted, gathered all day, engaged in activity, end of the day, had one big meal. And that was like how we evolved for however many hundreds of thousands of years. And I think the book is basically just supporting that idea that that's how we should be eating today as well.
And I understand why, as part of the Train Hard 45-day challenge, we are asking people to consume 50 grams of protein early. I understand why we're doing it, because the modern human being has access to food every second of every day. Most of the people who are listening to this podcast have immediate access to food every second of every day. And the reason we're asking you to eat 50 grams of protein early is so you don't go nuts on bullshit throughout the day and that you are actually hitting your protein number. Mm-hmm. But another school of thought out there to consider, if you're interested in nutrition or just learning a little bit more, are diets like this that are a little bit more ancestral. Fasting. Yeah, that deal more with intermittent fasting. I'm super interested in this stuff. Like I tend to think that nutrition has been over-scienced quite a bit in terms of like the weighing and measuring and the macros and the timing and all this kind of stuff. I think that if we're talking about something that's unnatural feeling to me, that's unnatural feeling in terms of like nutrition. I would think a much more natural way to control your quantity would be to like forego a meal or like look at your portions and just reduce your portions a little bit on your plate consistently. That feels more natural to me than you're accomplishing the same thing. I get it. But weighing and measuring and macros and nutrient profiles and all this kind of stuff is very different, I think, than how we came up as human beings.
Did you see what Mark Bell put up about the sugar diet?
I've been hearing about the sugar diet a lot, dude.
So I thought it was a joke. I honestly, Mark's a friend of ours, and I see that he puts up like, hey, the sugar diet is better than, what did he say? He said like the sugar diet is like, basically he was a big fan of intermittent fasting. Then he did carnivore, and he's like, nah, dude. He's like, I believe that the sugar diet is better than something, like basically saying like we need more food, right? And so you have honey and fruits, and he even put in candy. Like he's just like, if all you ate was sugar, am I tripping? Like
so there's been a couple of people recently. Mark Bell's kind of been at the epicenter of this. I've seen it pop up.
Yeah.
And they're calling it the sugar diet. And there is one guy on social media who's like really hard, like really, really big for this. But then Josh, who used to work for Caveman Coffee, Josh Gold, just had Mark Bell on his podcast talking about the sugar diet. I haven't listened to it yet, but Josh is a good resource, and he's a very passionate guy about the stuff that he believes. So I do want to listen to that. But when they're talking about sugar, I believe largely they are talking about honey, maple syrup, and fruit for the most part. And I'd have to look into what they're talking about in timing. I roughly believe that it's like front loading your sugar intake at the beginning of the day or middle of the day, and then your protein intake at the end of the day. I think that's the way that it's laid out. I'd have to check.
Yeah. No protein, no fat, no starches. No way you're not losing weight. Try 48 hours of sugar fast and share results. Like,
interesting.
48 hours of sugar fast? What? How could you base anything off of 48 hours? I mean, I think I don't know much about it. It sounds like something that, like most kind of fringe dietary strategies, it's like it'll work for a while and then until it doesn't.
When I first saw it, man, I was like, this is one of the things that we haven't named a diet yet. Like there's the paleo diet, the grapefruit diet, the steak diet, the fucking keto diet. Now we have the sugar diet. And I think things like this tend to catch fire in the nutrition community, and people try it out because it is something new and unique. And here it is, like the fucking guy eating a box of cane sugar.
Yeah, I'm going to call Mark after this and understand more. And because I got to see what's the.
Which I ended last night. The diet is unique. Can you scroll down? The diet is unique because it encourages your body to produce more energy. It's rare to be losing weight and not feel like you're in a caloric deficit. This diet seems to nail it.
What I appreciate about Mark is, dude, he puts himself in the lab. He tries everything.
I mean, dude. And he's not afraid to be honest about what he's trying. He's also doing a tremendous amount of performance enhancing drugs and.
I mean, he's tried everything, and he'll share the story on it. So I'm gonna have to call him and get a better idea. Cause like,
dude, let's get him on the Home Team podcast one day.
We should, but like, isn't that so funny how like, you could be like, oh, this diet. And then as time goes on, I think what it comes down to, man, is like just the basics, like eat real food and eat enough to allow you to, perform, and don't eat too much, and you're going to, exercise, you're going to be fine. And that's why I think the TH45 challenge has gone so well, is that guys who are front loading with 50 grams of protein, they're finding themselves just like eating normal meals throughout the rest of the day because they're not like starving. And it's just like so simplistic in nature. And starting off the day with 45 burpees, just building that consistency, that habit, going back to like the number one thing I think guys to do. Like, dude, if you're off the path and you want to get on the path, like wake up tomorrow 15 minutes early and go do 45 burpees. And I'm telling you, like something happens internally where your confidence meter, the way you carry yourself for the rest of the day, like, dude, I chose to do something hard to start the day, and now I'm ready to take on the rest of the day. I just think it's something special. So keep sharing in the community tab of the Train Hard app. And if you're not on the Train Hard app, dude, I mean, you're missing out. Like if you're a guy out there and you're not on the Train Hard app, I don't know what else we could say other than if you need support, we got your back, and it's on the community tab.
One of the things I think at some point when Gabe gets back to rekindle the nutrition discussion.
Gosh. Here we go.
But I just tend to think like all of this comes down to discipline.
Yeah.
Like all of nutrition comes down to discipline, no matter what plan you're following. It's all habits and discipline, because you could have a quality-based diet that if it goes out the window late at night and you just start eating trash or you start over consuming or whatever, you're not going to get the results you want. On the macro-based diet, if like you're not following the macros, not following the plan, if you're overeating, whatever, like you're not going to get the results you want. So whatever plan whatever diet fits your lifestyle that you're going to be able to follow, that you think is going to give you the most optimal health and performance results that you want, just stick to it. Like that's the essence of nutrition, is just finding what you can stick to.
Dude, MDV, I just want to say, I am going to Google in my local area for one of those.
Oh, you're going to go?
I don't know if I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to go.
You have to go now.
I'll tell you what maybe put me over the edge, maybe, is that you said after 20 minutes, something else came out. That makes me intrigued. Anyways.
That was the most interesting part.
Yeah, this stuff lodged up there for sure.
Yeah, it makes me interested. I don't know yet. I don't know.
I want to get your experience, though. I feel like I got, no pun intended, hosed. I got the lymphatic. I want the sauna. I want the whole deal.
It was cool. It was the place was called Living Water. Living Water. If you're in the San Diego area, they did a really good job. So I'll probably go back in a couple of months.
I went to the bodega of Holding places.
You guys cleaned off the end of the hose with his mouth, and then
you're at a 5-star restaurant. I'm at a bodega.
You guys have done the Russian bathhouses. Have you guys done those?
With the grape leaves, where they
with the grape leaves,
the platza.
Man, I did it twice. And if you have never experienced a Russian bathhouse with some old Russian dude smacking you with eucalyptus leaves, I think it's eucalyptus.
I think it is too.
Yeah, you have not lived yet.
Eucalyptus or grape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like one of those, right? And it's just smacking you with it and just fanning you and smacking you. Oh man, I went with JP a while ago. That was fun.
Oh yeah,
gentlemen.
Podcast is off the rails.
Off the rails. Always off the rails. Always good. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everybody for listening. Our goal is very, very simple. It's to help level up as many men as possible, to create change that is going to last a lifetime, to help not only train hard in the gym, but also then have those results help outside the gym. And I think we're on a really, really cool path. So thank you everybody for joining us on that journey, and we'll see you guys again next week for another awesome episode. Let's get it.